And Jesus answered this, are there not 12 hours in the day? If anyone walks in the day, he does not stumble because he sees the light of this world. But the one who walks in the night, he stumbles because the light is not in him. These things he said. So he said, wait a minute, we've got to go now because there's 12 hours in the day. And Jesus a lot of time talked in metaphors, right? While you're in this life, you can do something, and now is the time to do it. They were thinking in terms, we've got 12 hours to get from here to there. But then he finishes it off this way. These things said, and after that he said to them, our friend Lazarus sleeps, but I will go and wake him up. Do you think that he meant that Lazarus was asleep and now he needed to go wake him up? No, because you got to read ahead in the story. But the disciples are saying, Lazarus sleeps, and so we're going to go and wake him up. The disciples said, Lord, if he sleeps, he'll get well. Jesus was talking about not sleep, but death, right? And in this passage that Mark read this morning, Paul goes on to refer to the believers being asleep and not dead, and we're going to find out why before we're done today. So they said, hey, if he's sleeping, go wake him up. It'll be all right. However, Jesus spoke of his death, but they thought he was speaking about taking a rest and sleep. Then Jesus said to them plainly, Lazarus is dead. Now this next part is very confusing. He said, Lazarus is dead. My friend is dead. This must have been confusing to them. And I'm glad for your sakes that I was not there, that you may believe. Nevertheless, let us go. Jesus intentionally waited 2 days. He waited for something to happen that was not what Mary and Martha and Lazarus were asking for, not what the disciples expected. But he said, you know what? I'm glad that I waited these 2 days because I've got a bigger plan, and that plan involves that you may believe. We're going to hear the word believe, and this is starting to be the answer to your question whenever you're confronted with the conundrum of why not? Why did this happen? Why? And it says here, that you may believe, nevertheless, let us go. And so it's important to Jesus that these disciples and some other people start to believe in something bigger than what they can see right here and right now. Then Thomas, who's called the twin, said to his disciples, let us go that we may die with him. There's Thomas. He says, you know what? Okay, if he's going, I've been following this far. If he's going to get, okay, we're going to die. All right, I'm just going to follow. And so he was starting to get this thing that believe that Jesus has something going. He said, I'm going to believe. I don't know what's going to happen. Maybe I'm going to die. But you know what? I've been following this guy for 3 years. I'm going to follow him. So when Jesus came, he found that it was... verse 17, when Jesus came, he found that he had already been in the tomb. Is that the next verse? Yes. Already been in the tomb 4 days. Now Bethany was near Jerusalem, about 2 miles away, and many of the Jews had joined the women around Martha and Mary to comfort them concerning their brother. So when Jesus got there, it was over. It was Lazarus had already been dead for 4 days. The funeral was the procession had already, it was too late. I mean, Jesus had healed some people kind of in private in the past, but that was right away. This is too late. Time has gone by. What was he doing? Why was he doing this? Then Martha, as soon as she heard it, that Jesus was coming, went out to meet him. Jesus created the world. He breathed life into man, and now he says, I am. There is no resurrection. There is no life without me. He who believes in me, though he dies, he shall live. He says, if someone believes in me, there's that word believe again. It's a little bigger than just the circumstance right there. He says, if you believe in me and you die, you'll live again. And then he goes even a step further. He says, and whoever lives and believes in me shall never die. Believe. And then he said, do you believe this? So Jesus starts talking about death, and he's trying to make a point that this is bigger than this circumstance right now. God has a plan. Sometimes when we're in life and we're going through life and we say, if only, God says, it's bigger than that. You've got to see the bigger picture. It's not easy to do, because we read in that passage that he talked about believers being asleep and awaking again. We'll talk about that shortly. Verse 28. And when she had said these things, she went her way and secretly called Mary, her sister, saying, the teacher is coming and is calling for you. And as soon as she heard that, she rose and quickly came to him. Now Jesus was not yet in the town, but was in the place where Martha met him. Then the Jews who were there with her in the house and comforting her, when they saw Mary, rose up quickly and went out and followed her, saying, she's going to the tomb to weep there. Then when Mary came with where Jesus was and saw him, she fell down at his feet, saying, Lord, if you had been there, my brother would not have died.